A lot of people now are facing a very big decision, which is, what is my future? What is my career going to mean? I may not have a job when this is over, or it might be a very different job. You want to have the ability to step back and consider other options, because the greatest limitation that the human mind has is that we tend to consider what we've done in the past. We tend to follow a straight line. If we're considering, we're going to go here, here, or here, we only think of 3 possible paths in life. We have very narrow perspective. We try and keep this narrow because otherwise the human brain gets overloaded. You want to be able to expand your choices. You want to be able, instead of just thinking of A, B, and C, you want to think of D, E, and F, and G. You want to think, are there other things I could be doing, other possibilities out there? 90% of our behavior is compulsive. We repeat the same patterns of behavior, the same strategies over and over and over again. It's the animal part of our nature. And to be truly intelligent, to be truly rational, to be able to break out of those patterns. But you can't do that unless your mind is willing to consider a wider range of possibilities for yourself or for your decision. The first thing you have to do is you have to realize that 90% of what has gone into your decision is emotional, that you're basing it on wishes, on what you hope will be the truth, and that you're finding evidence to confirm that, confirmation bias. So if you can't make that first step, forget all the other that people throw at you in self-help books. It's meaningless. Your decision that you've just come upon is basically based on what you want, not on what's actually going to necessarily happen. So you have to take a step back and realize that. And when you realize that, now you reassess your decision. Okay, now you can begin to have what's called emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence basically means the ability to assess your own emotions. If you feel angry or if you feel excited, instead of acting on it, instead of going out and buying 10,000 shares of that stock that other people are buying, or instead of writing some really angry email to your boss about something he or she said, you then think about, why am I angry? Why am I excited? Is it reasonable? Is it based on what's actually happening to me right here in the present? Maybe it's not reasonable. Maybe I'm responding to something that happened in my childhood or to something that happened a few days ago, and it's not about what's going on in the present. So the ability to step back and analyze your own emotional responses is actually a critical life skill. How emotions are much more powerful physically than anything that our neocortex can supply to counter that. So basically, we think that our decisions are based on thinking, but they're based on our emotional responses to events. Being irrational is very dangerous. It's like a vapor that's hidden. You don't realize that it's infecting your decisions, but it is. And just being aware of how subtly it's infecting everything that you do can give you the ability to be more rational in life. It's all about awareness. The key here in going about your patterns is to be aware of those patterns. If you're not aware of those patterns, you will repeat them your entire life because you don't even know that they exist. So what are your patterns? So to do that, you have to take a step back and you have to look at yourself, and the patterns that you'll see will be very evident in certain things. They'll be evident in certain career choices that you've made. You've noticed that you tend to go either for a job that gives you a lot of money because that's something that's important to you, and then you're unhappy and frustrated because it's not fulfilling, and then you go for another job for a lot of money, and then you're unhappy, and you start drinking, you start taking drugs, and you go for, on and on and on and on. Or, so look at your patterns and your decisions, important decisions. They reveal something about you. Look at your choices of intimate partners. A lot of people will make a wrong choice. I know I have in my life, but in the past, you'll notice that you often choose the wrong kind of person, the wrong man or woman for you. And then 3 years later, you repeat it. You don't realize it, but you're going for the same type of person. You're attracted to narcissistic man or woman. You break up, and then you go after the same person again, over and over and over again. These are patterns that are trying to tell you something about something deep within you, about your character, about something that goes back to your childhood. It's not easy. It's not going to be a simple step, because the brain is designed as this kind of machine for repeating behaviors over and over again. We're neurologically wired to repeat things. It's not easy to break that, but the only way is to apply light to it, to throw a light on it, and to bring some intelligence and to say, This is why I always get angry when an authority figure asks me to do something. This is why I'm so rebellious and I always say the wrong thing in meetings, and why it's constantly hurt me in my career. This is why I've made terrible choices in a spouse or an intimate partner over and over again. That's like incredibly empowering. Now you have a little bit of space. The next time you're about to make a decision, to go, whoa, wait a minute. No, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I need a different type of person to be my partner in life. Or no, maybe I shouldn't say that thing to my boss. This has gotten me in trouble before. Now you have a little bit of power and you can start to build on that. The science on this confirms what I'm trying to say, that emotions are very important. They've done studies of people who've had brain damage to the extent where the emotional part of the brain, which is generally centered on the right hemisphere, has been damaged. So people don't have access to the usual emotions. And they are the ones who make the most irrational decisions of all, because they can't, for instance, tell if someone who they should mistrust. They don't have the emotional intelligence to see that that person is not somebody they can trust, and then they do something very naive. So emotions are actually very important. And you're not going to be able to write a book, to start a business, to create a popular podcast, to win an election, unless you have a great deal of energy and emotional power and enthusiasm for it. I talk in Mastery how Albert Einstein, the person we consider the most rational person ever.
Hey, wait, make sure you subscribe the channel for upcoming videos. Now, let's continue this episode.
Was extremely emotional, and he talked about how it took an incredible amount of excitement to spend 10 years studying one formula day after day after day after day. You need your emotions. And I compare it to the old ancient Greek metaphor of a rider on a horse. So the horse represents your animal nature, your emotions, right? And the rider is your intelligence, the neocortex, the part of our thinking process that evolved much later on. So if you just let the horse go wherever and you don't try and guide it, you're going to end up in all kinds of dangerous things. The horse might just like jump off a cliff, or will end up going anywhere, right? But if you hold on to the horse too tightly, if you're so worried about controlling it, it won't go anywhere, or it'll be very rebellious and upset. You have to learn how to ride a horse, which means you find a middle path. You hold the reins, you guide it, but you use that energy of the horse, the power that it contains, to take you somewhere, but you guide it. You give it some intelligence. That is what rationality is about. So you have to have that energy. You can't repress your emotions. You can't repress anger. To try and repress anger will only cause other problems, physical and emotional. You have to learn how to use your anger. You have to be able to be like that rider on the horse and guide it in an intelligent, productive way. It's not about just getting rid of emotions, which is impossible for a human being. It's about learning how to recognize their power, how much they intend to infect your decisions, and to be able to guide them in some way. Instead of letting the emotions ride you, you're riding them. We deny our own nature. We don't want to admit it. So it's always the other person that's a narcissist. It's always the other person who's violent and aggressive. But me, no, I'm not. I'm a saint. It's always the other person who's the conformist. No, I always get my ideas from myself. I don't listen to other people. It's always the other people who are envious. No, I never compare. It's the person who says, I am not a narcissist, is the most narcissistic person of all, because they have to prove how different they are from other people. It's all about themselves, right? So denial, as Freud said, is merely a way of disguising the opposite, which you're trying to disguise from yourself. We are all narcissistic and self-absorbed by nature. We all have aggressive impulses by nature. We are designed as animals to feel envy. So stop trying to play the saint and admit that you have these same tendencies. Children are kind of these complete individuals. They feel a very wide range of emotions. Some of the emotions are positive, like love and affection and empathy, but a lot of the emotions are negative: anger, destructiveness, hatred, violence, etc. And children haven't yet been socialized. They have these complete range of emotions, right? They're like a round ball of energy that just exists and they can't control it. They just are who they are, good and bad, angel and demon, all in one. But then as you get older, as you become 6 or 7 years old, you have to listen to your parents and your teachers tell you, you can't be like that little Bobby or Susie or whatever. I'm sorry about my bad names here. You have to learn to get along with other people. You can't be so angry. You can't be so violent. You can't be so aggressive. You need to control it. And you on and on, year after year after year after year after hearing this, you push it down, and that round ball of energy starts becoming this squash little thing like that. And all of the dark energy gets pushed down in somewhere else. But it doesn't disappear, because nothing that's a natural human energy, you can't get rid of it. It's there. It's just repressed and pushed down into what's called your shadow, what Carl Jung called the shadow side of the personality. And the shadow will come out later in life, when you're in your 20s, for instance, when you suddenly have a burst of anger and you tell somebody something that you regret the next day, and you go, what the hell came over me? Was that somebody else? That wasn't me. I don't understand it. Or you buy something that was totally wrong, that was not the right purchase for you, and the next day you go, why did I buy that thing? Why did I spend $40,000 on a new car when I don't even have that, blah, blah, blah. When suddenly you have some sort of behavior that surprises you, as if it came out of nowhere. You leave your very good wife you've been married to for 20 years for some sexy model who's 20 years old, and she ruins your life. Why? Why did I do that? Who was that person that came out? Well, that is your shadow side that you've repressed. It's coming out in moments that you can't control. So oftentimes you see that with celebrities who get caught in the act of doing something kind of naughty or bad, and they'll always come out in public and they'll say, that wasn't me. That isn't who I am. No, that is exactly who you are. That is exactly who you are. That is more you than the kind of saintly person you try and present. It's that dark side that is really a part of you that came out, that you've been trying to conceal from other people. So the thing is, you have to admit that you have a dark side, that you have aggressive impulses, that you have some antisocial impulses, that you have a rebellious streak, which is natural for all of us. We all went through a rebellious phase in our teens, etc. That you have these qualities that you kind of don't like in other people, but you have them as well, right? And the point is not to just suddenly become this devilish person in life and just give full rein to all that stuff, but to be aware, back to awareness, and to be able to channel it in a productive manner. Your anger is your best weapon of all. So find ways to use that dark energy that are actually productive.
Please subscribe the channel to inspire us to make more videos. Also share the video to spread the word, and watch another videos to get inspired. Keep smiling and inspiring.